Hello, everyone, and welcome to our briefing of September 17th. We will be hearing today from Public Health, Traffic Engineering, and the Madison Public Library. And then I'll have a number of updates as well. And so we will start with Director of Public Health, Janelle Heinrich.
Good morning. September continues to be quite a busy month. It continues to demonstrate that we are experiencing a higher burden of COVID in our community than we have seen to date in this pandemic. More people than ever have been and are being diagnosed with COVID in Dane County. The most recent 14-day average was 94 cases per day, which is doubled that from our previous reporting period. And today, in fact, reporting on the data on our dashboard, we recorded 249 cases for September 16th, which is the third highest day on record. And in that, just to paint a very complete picture of what's happening, according to the Department of Health Services, we're in Dane County categorized as having a high and growing burden of disease. From September 1 to September 12th, 3 out of every 4 people who tested positive for COVID in Dane County were a student or staff member of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. We don't know yet, and will, as I've said before, I said last week, time will tell whether that's contained to our campus community or spills over outside of that campus community. This is a communicable disease. It doesn't have boundaries or borders, doesn't respect them, and people move about. So we will continue to ask everyone to adhere to the best practices that we have been trying to loudly sing for the last number of months, to maintain your physical distancing, to do all that you can to minimize the risk of transmission. We still have several lawsuits that are in front of the Supreme Court. Oral arguments have been scheduled for December 8th. And we continue to ask schools to take that phased reopening approach. Schools are a reflection of our community. And if the number of people who have COVID in our community is high and growing, we could see that reflected in our schools if we were to broadly reopen. So while the injunction against our order is still in place, we continue to urge you to adhere to a phased approach and based on our recommendations. And then again, I would say this has been a very busy week. We are concerned, as though there will not be fans in the stand. We know that it's often, when we have football Saturdays, a place of celebration and coming together. And we really encourage that Saturdays, instead of gathering in large groups, you gather in small groups and continue to maintain that social distancing and not extend past what we are asking you to do so with gathering limits, so that we can contain the spread of illness in Dane County. Thank you.
Thank you, Janelle. Next, we're going to hear from Renee Calloway from Traffic Engineering.
Thank you. So I wanted to come here today just to tell you a little bit about some events, Cycle September and Madison's Bike Week. These are events that you would not normally find in the fall. Normally we would have done these earlier in the summer, but it didn't seem right at the time. But now we realize people need to be outside, have healthy activities, have things that they can do. And so we decided to go forward with a very different kind of event after talking this through with our many partners. So what we're doing is much less about things that you get during Bike Week. Traditionally, you might get free bacon or free brats along a bike path, but we're not doing those kinds of things now. Instead, we have a lot of events that are encouraging people to give back to the community We're calling this our Pedal for Good activities. We have a food drive that we're partnering with bike shops on so that you can go by a lot of local bike shops, drop off some food, and we're partnering with Community Action Coalition to then get that food out into the community. We have a trail cleanup that we're doing. It's a do-it-yourself. You pick your own trail in your neighborhood. You go out, clean up, and parks will come by and pick that trash up. We also have partnerships with Free Bikes for Kids for bike donations at certain businesses in town. And because we know that local businesses are struggling, we're encouraging them to participate in the bike benefits program that gives a little discount, and then we're encouraging bicyclists to ride to those businesses, support them. Many of these businesses have given out free food during Bike Week in the past, so now we're gonna go there on our bikes, get some takeout, and help support them. So there's also rides that you can do on your own. You can win some prizes if you do some of them. We ask you to post them on social media and show yourself out riding by yourself, with your household, not gathering up in groups, but still having fun on your bike. And we also have a great event coming up this Sunday on the north side at Warner Park. For kids, it's called our Pop-Up Wheel Spot event. Madison Parks is working with the Madison Skate Park Fund and the Capital Off-Road Pathfinders from 2 to 4 on Sunday to have some little features for people who skate, or features, skills development features that you can ride on, so that kids can come, stay distant, but still have a fun activity that they can do while improving their biking and wheeling skills. So all of these events you can find on our partner's website, Madison Bikes. It's madisonbikes.org/bikeweek. All of the events, some of them are taking place the whole month of September, some are just during this week, but you can find the information there for a lot of really fun activities for families, for kids, for people of all ages, just to get out while the weather is still great and ride their bike. And then next month, we will be doing an event called Walktober to help motivate and energize people as it gets darker and colder to keep walking. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee, and I hope folks can get outside for some of those great events. Next, we're going to hear from Greg Michaels, who's our library director.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor. When COVID hit, Madison Public Libraries closed its doors to the public on March 17th, but we immediately began to figure out how to restore services and eventually find ways to reopen our buildings during a pandemic. And following the advice of Mayor Satya, we knew there would be challenges, but how do we make this into opportunities? For Madison Public Library, opportunity begins with our commitment to equity and reducing barriers to all library services. Even before COVID, the library had already been conducting research on the impact of fines as a barrier to accessing our resources. Our research showed that almost 50,000 Madison Public Library users had fines on their records, and almost 20% of those accounts, or approximately 10,000 of our patrons, were blocked from checking out library materials. Our research also showed that more of the patrons with blocked records were in neighborhoods with lower socioeconomic populations and a higher percentage of residents of color. Additionally, knowing the financial burdens many residents will face due to COVID, the Madison Public Library Board made the bold decision at their August 2020 meeting to eliminate overdue fines and the use of a collection agency. This policy change was effective immediately and included not only the elimination of overdue fines going forward, but the waiving of past fines. Madison Public Library is now among a growing number of public libraries in Dane County and public libraries across the nation who have eliminated overdue fines. But the elimination of fines is just one of the many new or improved services at Madison Public Library. In the last 5 months, we have also successfully launched new services such as online library card applications. You can now go to the library's website and get a virtual library card. The library also established a centralized call center to answer customer questions about library and city services. You can go online to reserve books and materials and pick them up curbside, just like your favorite takeaway restaurant. With the support of the Madison Public Library Foundation's generous donors, we have significantly increased our online collections and services. And we have now reopened most of our libraries for public computing by appointment. We expanded the reach of our Dream Bus, a bookmobile loaded with your favorite library materials for all ages, now serving 13 neighborhoods on a weekly basis. And looking ahead, we will be virtually hosting our fall Wisconsin Book Festival. Be sure to check out the Wisconsin Book Festival website for a complete schedule and list of authors. And COVID is not stopping us in our civic engagement work. Central Library is being used for Red Cross blood drives, and you will still be able to return your absentee ballots, use the city's drive-up absentee voting, and vote in person at many of Madison's public libraries for the upcoming November election. Hopefully, as conditions permit, we will open our libraries for even more services when we know it is safe for you and our staff. In the meantime, enjoy many of our virtual services, and welcome back to Madison Public Library.
Thank you, Greg. Our libraries are such a great resource for our community. And speaking of both Madison Public Libraries and the Dream Bus, the Dream Bus is partnering with the Census Bureau to encourage all Madisonians to fill out the 2020 census. And so the Census Bureau will have staff available as part of their mobile questionnaire assistance outreach, very fancy title there, to work alongside librarians at the Dream Bus stops until September 18th to help people fill out the census. So we have today from 11:30 till noon, the Dream Bus will be at Sandburg Elementary. And then from 12:45 to 1:15, it'll be at Vandenberg Heights in Sun Prairie. And then from 2 to 2:30, it will be at East Madison Community Center. And there will be folks who speak both Spanish and Mandarin on hand to help people fill out the census at the Dream Bus. On Friday, the 18th, the Dream Bus will be at the Allied Drive Learning Center from 1 to 1:45 p.m. and then at Owl Creek Park from 2:15 to 3 p.m. And on Friday, there will be someone who speaks Mandarin available to help with the census. The Dream Bus, if you don't know about it, is an amazing mobile library that visits dozens of locations throughout the Madison area 5 days a week, year-round. At the Dream Bus, you can get a library card, browse and check out materials, return items, place and pick up holds, and use free Wi-Fi, and today and tomorrow, fill out the census. The Dream Bus is a collaboration between Madison Public Library, Dane County Library Service, and the Madison Public Library Foundation. You can learn more about the Dream Bus at dreambus.org. And if you can't make the Dream Bus stops, you can still fill out the census at home if you haven't already. You can fill it out online by visiting my2020census.gov, and you can do that today. It takes about 10 minutes to fill out the census, very straightforward and easy. Or you can do it over the phone. There are customer service representatives available every day from 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. The English line is 844-330-2020. Again, that's 844-330-2020. And the Spanish line in Espanol is 844-700-19 468-2020. Again, in Espanol, 844-468-2020. Madison's response rate to the census right now is only 75%. We need that response rate to get much closer to 100%. So please, if you haven't already, get online, pick up the phone, fill out the census, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your neighbors. We need every household to fill out the census. All right, our next update is from the Streets Division. The final guaranteed round of brush collection of this year will begin on Monday, September 21st. So if you place your brush out for collection after September 21st, there's a chance it will not be picked up until regular brush collection operations begin next spring. When you put the brush out, please make sure you have all the cut ends facing the same direction. Make sure that you're not putting your brush piles too close to obstructions like fire hydrants or mailboxes. Keep your brush piles separate from your yard waste piles. It's not the same thing. Two separate collections. So piles of brush and yard waste that are mixed together will not be picked up. The pickup schedule map will give you a sense of when you can put your brush to the curb so it doesn't sit on the terrace for too long. The map can't tell you exactly when collection will occur, but it will tell you what neighborhoods are next and when to set out your brush so you don't miss that last collection. And that map is on the Streets Division brush website, which is cityofmadison.com/brush collection. That's cityofmadison.com brush collection. You can also call the brush collection hotline at 608-267-2088 for curbside collection time estimates, and that recording is updated weekly. Again, that number is 608-267-2088. Madison residents can also bring 1 load of brush a day to either of the Streets Division drop-off sites at 1501 West Badger Road or at 4602 Sycamore Ave. Those sites are open from 7:30 a.m. to 2:50 p.m. Monday to Friday, and also on Sunday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. You should be prepared to wait in line. We're limiting the number of vehicles that can unload at a time to help with physical distancing and keep everybody healthy and safe. Contractors and residents can bring brush, larger loads of brush, to the Brush Processing Center at 121 East Olin Ave to be chipped for a per-ton fee, and mulch is also available at that Brush Processing Center. More information, including hours of operation and fees, can be found on the Streets Division website or by contacting the center at 608-266-4911. That's 608-266-4911. Now some good news. All of the absentee ballots that have been requested to date are on track to be mailed today. And that is thanks to the county mailroom, our incredible volunteers, and of course the clerk's office for working overtime to make sure that those ballots were ready to go and could get into the mail as soon as we received the Supreme Court ruling. It is not too late to request your absentee ballot. If you would like to do that, you can do that right up until the Thursday before the election, but please don't wait. Go now and make sure that you're registered to vote and request your absentee ballot today if you want to vote absentee. You can return absentee ballots via mail or at a drop-off site. There are many drop-off sites throughout the city. We're installing drop boxes. We will have drop-offs in the parks, and then we will also have our early voting sites will be accepting ballots dropped off, and you can drop them off at the polls. You also will have lots of opportunities to vote early in person. Please stay tuned and check the clerk's website for all of the ways that you can vote. And speaking of, the Madison City Clerk would like voters to know some of the answers to their 10 most frequently asked questions that they receive regarding voter registration. Question number 1 is, am I registered to vote? You can look up your voter registration by entering your name and date of birth at myvote.wisconsin.gov, myvote.wisconsin.gov. Question number 2, I think I missed an election. Does that mean that I have been removed from the poll list? No, it doesn't. If someone goes for 4 years without voting, they will be sent a postcard asking if they want to remain on the poll list. And if they respond, they will stay on the list, but former voters who don't respond may be removed from the poll list. Question number 3, what if the name on my voter ID isn't an exact match to my name on the poll book? Poll workers are able to use common sense. So, for example, if your ID says Robert, but you registered to vote as Bob, poll workers will recognize that as the same name. Question number 4. I moved to a different apartment in the same building. Can my voter registration stay the same? No, you need to update your voter registration to reflect your new apartment number. Question number 5, I changed my name. Should I update my voter registration? You will need to update your voter registration once you have updated your name at the DMV. Until you have a voter ID that reflects your new name, you may continue voting under your previous name. Question number, I think we're on 6 now. I have switched political parties. Do I need to update my voter registration? No, you don't. Voter registration in Wisconsin is not associated with a political party. Question number 7, all of my bills are electronic. How can I provide proof of address when registering to vote? Your proof of address can be an electronic document showing the name and address on your voter registration form. You could provide your address with an electronic utility bill, like water, gas, electric, phone, cable, internet, a bank statement from your bank or credit union, your credit card or your mortgage, or a government document, the city assessor website, Madison Public Library account, your UW website, or a public high school infinite campus. When is the deadline to register to vote? You can actually register to vote at the polls on Election Day with proof of address if you want to, so nothing should keep you from voting. Does canceling your voter registration mean that you won't be called for jury service? No, it doesn't. So please vote, please register to vote, even if you don't want to serve on a jury. The Wisconsin courts randomly select potential jurors from a Department of Transportation list, not the voter rolls. And last but not least, I received a registration form in the mail. Does that mean I'm not registered to vote? Not necessarily. Several advocacy groups that are not associated with the clerk's office or the Elections Commission send out mass mailings about voter registration, but the mailings may be based on outdated or inaccurate data. To verify your voter registration, check myvote.wisconsin.gov or contact the city clerk's office at 608-266-4601. That's 608-266-4601, or voting@cityofmadison.com. That's voting@cityofmadison.com. And please, whatever you do, register and vote. All right, we have another reminder about the Madison Police and Fire Commission, which is an independent body that is working on hiring the next police chief, and they are still seeking community input. There's a whole list of ways that you can give them input, which can all be found at cityofmadison.com/PFC. They include a community input survey, a virtual listening session, which is happening this evening. You may also submit written comments to policechiefsearch@cityofmadison.com. You can submit written comments via mail. You can schedule public input time at one of their meetings, or you can leave a voice message at 608-266-6574. That's 608-266-6574. And again, their website is cityofmadison.com/PFC. We really encourage folks to let the Police and Fire Commission know what you're looking for in our next chief of police. Another reminder just about community resources, and all of this information can be found at cityofmadison.com if you click on the community resources link. Our housing helpline for folks who are homeless or in danger of losing housing is 608-264-0549, 608-264-0549, or you can email housinginfo@cityofmadison.com, housinginfo@cityofmadison.com. To access Information and help about phone or internet service, you can call the Public Service Commission at the state. That's 608-267-3595, 608-267-3595. If you need help finding childcare, you can call a referral specialist from Community Coordinated Childcare at 608-216-7022. That's 608-216-7022. And if you need help on any of these or other things like food resources or connection to social services, please call United Way's 211. Again, that you just dial 211, or you can text your zip code to 898-211. Again, text your zip code to 898-211 to access a plethora of community resources. Finally, upcoming meetings. Today, the 17th, there is a 3:30 p.m. task force on structure of city government ad hoc final report implementation work group meeting. At 4, the Monona Terrace Community and Convention Center Board meets. At 5, the Landlord and Tenant Issues Committee meets. At 5, also, the Police and Fire Commission has a meeting. At 5:30, the Community Development Block Grant Committee meets. And also at 5:30, the Downtown Coordinating Committee and the President's Task Force on Critical Issues Impacting the Black Community. On Monday, the 21st, at 4:30, there is a Finance Committee meeting. Tuesday, the 22nd, at 4, there is a Complete Count Committee meeting. That's focused on the census. At 4:30, the Water Utility Board meets, and at 5:30, the Police and Fire Commission meets. On Wednesday, the 23rd, at 2:30, the Committee on Aging meets, and at 5:30, the Community Service Committee meets. All these meetings are virtual. They're all accessible via the city website, and the full list of city meetings is also available on the city website. And that's my list for the day. Please mask up, wash your hands, be well, take care of each other, and we'll take a few questions. We have a few minutes for questions.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a number of questions for Janelle and a few for yourself.
All right, so we'll start with Janelle.
Good morning, Janelle.
Good morning.
The first question is, will businesses be allowed to host tailgates during Badger Games Day? If they do it socially distanced and reduce capacity? Or will public health prohibit all forms outside of the campus area?
The capacity limits that we currently have in our orders are what will continue until we determine that we've met the thresholds to change those limits. So we're asking everyone to continue to abide by what we have in place at the moment.
Okay. The next question is in regards to testing. How many tests are we now doing per day in Dane County? How has that changed since testing began? What is the average result turnaround time? And who can access rapid tests?
So I can answer most of those things, but we probably offer about 12 to 14,000 tests per week at the Alliant Energy Center, in addition to all the tests that are happening on campus and within healthcare, so that we have a large number of tests that are happening every week to support our Dane County community. Anyone who is symptomatic or thinks that they are at risk of being exposed to COVID may go to, we ask that you, if you have a healthcare provider, you go to your healthcare provider to get tested, or you can go to the Alliant Energy Center, or if that doesn't work, to our South Madison test site to receive a test. The turnaround time notification is still 24 to 48 hours. The notification comes in if you come to the test site that we host. You can get your results, negative or positive. Or negative results are generally provided electronically in the form that you choose when you register for your intake to get that test, and we are still able to largely turn around results otherwise within that 24 to 48 hour period.
The next question is similar to one I asked before. How will enforcement work outside of the campus area and Camp Randall Stadium when it comes to gathering around football games? What will MPD's role be around game day, and how aggressive will they be with tailgating and gatherings on game days?
Sure. So the news about return to football came to us as it did to everyone else quickly this week. So if we continue to demonstrate as we have, we will pivot and figure out how to adjust. Complaints and enforcement has largely been complaint-based, but we are pivoting to figure out how do we be a little bit more present. MPD has the ability to write citations, but also can support us in access to spaces if we need so.
Okay, the next question for you is, Public Health said yesterday it does not have jurisdiction over UW-Madison campus, including Camp Randall Stadium. So we wanted to clarify whether that also included how the Badger football team hosts its practices. Are they free to handle practice how they want?
So our answer is the same. We have no authority over how the state entities, and the university is one of those. So we do not have the ability to inform that activity.
And the next question is a bit similar to the previous one. It says, can you talk about the concerns with athletes and serious long-term health issues like myocarditis, inflammation of the heart muscle, and heart failure in relation to COVID-19?
What we know is there's an emerging body of evidence and research that show that even though athletes may recover from COVID-19, there may be serious long-term health issues could persist, including myocarditis and inflammation of the heart muscle, which can lead to heart failure in the future. So as with everything, we pay attention to the evidence. We are concerned about both the short and the long-term impact of COVID. And at this point, we don't know what that long-term impact is. We have about 9 months maybe of evidence emerging, and that is what we will continue to follow.
And the last question we have for you today is, who can access rapid test?
So I'm not sure what is being defined as rapid test, but if people want to get tested, they can go to the Alliant Energy Center to get tested if they're having a hard time getting in with their healthcare provider, but we encourage folks to get tested.
Thank you, Janelle. And the next two questions we have is for the mayor. On Tuesday, Chief Wall said the restrictions on police officers being on the board may go too far. That's referring to the Civilian Oversight Board. Mayor Rhodes-Conway, how do you feel about police officers not being allowed on the Civilian Oversight Board?
So this is a settled conversation. The City Council debated this issue and voted on it, and I think on balance it's a good thing that we will have a Civilian Oversight Board and an Independent Monitor's Office. I think what we're focused on right now is making sure that those are implemented in the most effective way, and working with the City Council leadership and the Council as a whole to do that.
And the other question we have for you is, are you considering any changes to the tent encampment after calls to shut them down from at least one outer? Or because of the recent violence at Randall Park? Or are you considering expanding the program to put more of the homeless population into hotels instead? Is there CARES funding available to house more of this population in hotels if needed?
All right, so that's a lot of questions packed into one. Let me say a couple of different things. First of all, it's incredibly concerning the level of both homelessness and housing insecurity that we see in our community. This has been a problem for years. It was a problem pre-COVID, and it is only worse in the era of COVID. And this is something that the city takes very seriously, has been working on very hard, particularly since COVID hit our community. We've been partnering with service providers, with the county, with the state to make sure that as many people as possible are housed in a safe and healthy way during this pandemic. So that's been a priority for us, and there's a number of things that the city has done with support from other partners as well. In terms of funding, the City of Madison has received very little direct funding from the CARES Act. The most of the funding we received was for our transit agency, and we've only received a very small amount for anything else. The majority of CARES Act funding that came into our community came to Dane County, and they have used it in a number of ways to support our community through the COVID-19 pandemic, including helping to house individuals in hotels and in shelters throughout this pandemic, which they continue to do. I am very concerned, however, that the federal government has failed to act and is not providing additional direct funding to our communities to help solve these problems. So when that CARES Act money runs out, that the county has received or must be spent before the end of the year, we will not have additional resources in our community to support these efforts. So at the moment, yes, we are working with the county to try and place folks in hotels if they are eligible for that. We are working to place people in housing. We have spent over $250,000 on outreach workers this year to help connect folks who do not have homes with housing options, whether that's shelter or hotel or something more permanent. But I'm very concerned about the lack of federal support for this work going into 2021, and that's something that we really need Congress to act on as soon as possible so that we can continue to support people and get them into housing. On the question of encampments, we have been and continue to follow CDC guidance, which recommends that we not break up encampments during a pandemic for fear of spreading COVID-19 more throughout our community. We do, however, have outreach workers who are visiting these encampments, encouraging people to move into a better housing situation. Often folks are not willing to do that, and so we continue to work with folks to support them in their health, their mental health, and other needs to get folks into a place where they will feel comfortable accepting the housing options that we have available. Our staff are working overtime to try and figure out how to provide more housing options in our community. This is an incredibly difficult situation. So at the moment, I think that at least some of the encampments we have remain viable options for folks, but it would be my strong preference that we get everybody under a roof. And our staff are working, again, with the county and with service providers around the city to do as much as we can to make that possible.
Thank you, Mayor. Those are all the questions we have for today.
Thank you all, and thanks for tuning into our briefing of September 17th. We will see you next Thursday. Have a great week.